Tad Hargrave from Marketing for Hippies here. Have a puttering session case study. So there's a woman who I first worked with 8 years ago. She was, I guess, in her master's program. She ended up becoming a business coach. But in one of our sessions a couple of years ago, uh, what came out was that she's deeply Christian, but also a hippie. This world is full of the strangest things. A Christian hippie. And I said, you're doing this marketing stuff, but I feel like you've got so much energy around the Christianity piece. And maybe there's something there, the hippie Christianity thing. And what that turned into was she was estranged from her daughter. They'd gone through a really rough time. Her daughter became pagan, heavens to Betsy. And her daughter really pushed her away. And of course, it's heartbreaking as a parent to go through this. And she did her own work as the mother to heal that division, to heal that distance between them. And this was before, yeah? So when I talked about the Christianity thing, she thought, well, maybe are there any other mothers out there whose kids have estranged because of a real difference in worldview? Maybe the parents are atheist and they became Christian, or they're Christian, the kid became atheist, or vegan, whatever it is. And so she thought maybe there's others. And she put it out there just as a beta test, which I recommend, just a small test. And there was a really strong response. She was encouraged, but doubtful. I mean, it's like maybe I just found the only other pocket of people who are dealing with this. But she's turned it into a podcast. I guess she said it's in the top 3% of podcasts, tens of thousands of downloads. I'm just not mentioning her name because I don't have her permission on that explicitly. But I may be on her podcast soon, so pay attention. If you're on my email list, you'll hear about it. Anyways, first thing, that's a killer niche. This is a real great example of your deepest wound is often a doorway to your truest niche, yeah? Really good. And what makes it a good niche is it's a situation, yeah? It's a story. It's a circumstance somebody might be in, not just a static problem. There's some dynamism to it. Somebody would know if they were in that moment or not. That would not be, no surprises, no confusion. So there's that. And then, anyways, basically it's going great. And she said there were two things that came up in that call. My arm is getting tired. I gotta find out somewhere to put my phone down here. Let's give this a shot. See if this works. Why didn't I do this before I started recording the video? Okay, this is a terrible angle. Hold on. I'm just going to suffer for you people. But I am going to sit down. So there was a couple things. One is she does these free consultations. So we see these a lot in the marketplace. Hey, book an hour with me and we'll talk and see if it's a fit. But she's been getting so many paying clients that, you only have, let's say, 20 hours available for coaching during the week. And if 15 of those hours are going to these free consults, you only have 5 hours available for coaching. So in the beginning, you might just do a lot of these free things, and they can be great as a way to learn and get to know people, but you only have so much time. So we started talking, and I said, well, how do you know if people are a fit? And she said, well, one of them is if we talk and they talk about their relationship with their mother, and it's just all bitterness, and they haven't healed their own relationship with their parents, that's a red flag. Another red flag was if she says, what's your role in your family of origin? And if they'd gone through trauma and were maybe the scapegoat, this actually boded well because they knew this experience. If they were coming to her just thinking, how do I change my kid? How do I change their mind? If the focus was on changing the child, that was a red flag. So there were a number of these, not deal breakers, but I guess red flags, you could say. And I said, well, here's what I would do is before somebody books, because she was wondering, do I say how much it costs up front? I'm a fan of not always, I just generally a fan of putting the price up front. But I said, well, I don't know if you put the price, but I would put those things up front. Say, hey, before you book this free session, make sure these things are a fit. These red flags aren't here. Because here's the conversations I often have. And when somebody responds in this way, it's usually a good fit. But if they respond in that way, it's not a good fit. So let me just go over those things. Notice how you respond, and you'll probably know how good a fit it is or not. And then the more we spoke, I said, well, if you've got this program, Ross O'Loughlin from conversionengineering.co, he's got an approach I think he got from someone else, but I really like it. And the basic idea is this. Once a quarter or so, you send out an email, say, hey, we're looking for a small group of people who fit the following, who are dealing with this, estranged from their kids, who meet the following basic criteria. And these are the musts. You're struggling in this way, you're open to these ideas, you're willing to do this kind of work. You send that out, but there's no link. You can't sign up anywhere. But just, hey, if you're interested, let me know. People click reply, hey, I'm interested. Then you would send them maybe a Google Doc or a web page, but there's also nowhere to sign up. There's nowhere to pay, but it's just saying, here's what the program is. Here's how much it costs. Here's what's required of you. Here's what you get. And then, in the email, it's just great. Here's the link, nothing fancy. Let me know if you have any questions or if you're in. And then people reply, there's kind of one of four replies. One is just no reply at all. The second is I'm in. Third is not a fit. And the fourth is, I've got some questions. So I said, you could say, look, if you have any questions at the end of this, if you're in, let me know. And if you have any questions you'd really like to talk one-on-one, let me know that too, once you've read it. And then at that point, she can give them the link to book an appointment. Better deal. And then, but she's looking at scaling it, but doesn't want to scale it in such a way that it loses the intimacy with a topic like this. Now, she does have a Facebook group, which just crested 500 people, which is good. And I said, have you thought about doing a DIY course? And she said, well, maybe, but pitch me. What do you got? I said, well, this is one of the secret purposes of your business model, is you can craft things that help people become your ideal client. They may not be your ideal client. And I said, you could do a DIY course that would just help a parent get to the point where they might actually be able and willing to work with you. And so she laid it out. And let me see what I can remember. I think the first bit was pause. That was the first step that she was going to say in her DIY course, is just don't react, don't freak out, don't panic. Take a breather. Send your child an email that's like, hey, I got the news, you're wanting distance, and I just want you to know, I don't know why, don't pretend to understand why. For the next couple of months, I'll be taking some space as well. The door is always open, and during these couple of months that you're not hearing from me, I'm going to be really looking at my part in this and doing the inner work for myself and how I can show up better for you. But then, so get yourself some space. Number two is, I think, deal with the emotions of panic and all the distress that's coming up. Listening to yourself the way that your child maybe needs to be listened to. Practicing there first. I can't remember the third, but she had three really great ideas, and she said, I think if somebody went through that, they'd be in a great position to work with me. Perfect. So she can sell that. She can make some money on it. Then another idea I came up with, I said, you could offer something to the poor wee pagan children, who maybe their parents disowned them, or maybe they're at a place they want to, make amends, but how do I do it? How do I deal with my crazy Christian parents who, have made my life so miserable? Do a little DIY course for them. And in it you say, hey, your parents probably need some work too. I work with them, but here's how, whether it's with me or somebody else or a book, here's the way you can bring this up with your parents that isn't going to push them away. So it's like that could also become marketing. And I said, have you been interviewed on podcasts? She said, people always tell me, but I just don't know which ones they'd be. I said, any Christian podcast, but also any pagan podcast. You'd go down so big on the pagan podcast. They fucking love you. So And also perhaps mental illness podcasts, because there's a lot of estrangement that happens with that. So, or atheist podcasts. You see what I'm saying? The hubs just unfurl themselves so easily. Was there anything else? I think those were the big things. Anyways, I just wanted to record this because I thought there were so many good gems in it. There were such good illustrations of pink spoons, the kind of the free samples. How do you expand your business model, make it more profitable, but in a way that's still accessible? How do you deal with the trouble of too much demand? All of that. So anyways, if you're really curious who she is, feel free to just drop a message in the comments or email me, tad@marketingforhippies.com. I'm happy to hook you up with her info if you know somebody who needs it. And there will be a podcast I'll do with her on coercion. She and I are going to talk about that because there's so much coercion between parents and children going both ways. And that's one of the big themes I work on, is how do we relate to each other from the business standpoint without coercion. So I think it'll be a very interesting conversation, given that she and I have worked together so much over the years, and she'll, I think, have good questions to ask. And I got some questions for her too. So there you go. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care. Oh, by the way, also, if you are curious to know more about my work, just go to marketingforhippies.com. I've got the ethical marketing starter kit you can download. If you like these videos, please share them up. It's one of the best ways that people hear about my work. Hit the subscribe button and the little bell icon. You'll be notified about my stuff. And then @marketingforhippies on Instagram.